RT gets rare access to the front line in the embattled Syrian city of Aleppo to find out who the government forces are really dealing with in the east of the city.
If you had any doubts about who holds eastern Aleppo, let my cameraman dissipate those doubts. That is the black flag of Jabhat al-Nusra.
Really bad judgment.
Donald always takes care of Donald.
Tremendous hate in her heart.
It's just not true.
It's a disgrace.
Okay, Donald.
Scandals and embarrassing revelations lead to bitter arguments in the second round of the US presidential debate. Also ahead, German special forces are accused of a security lapse after a key terror suspect was allowed to run loose for days despite being on a terror watch list. Just gone midday here in the Russian capital. You're tuned into RT International. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the program. Once Syria's largest city, Aleppo, has been devastated by 5 years of brutal conflict. For much of that time, government forces have been trying to oust al-Nusra militants from the area. Let's take a look at western Aleppo, the government-controlled area. Now, it is considered relatively safe, but here in the east, there are various rebel groups intermingled with the main terror threat, al-Nusra. Dividing the areas is a thin front line, this red area. Well, some Western governments insist there's just a limited force of al-Nusra fighters there. RT's Murat Gazdiev got as close as he could to see if that's really the case.
Aleppo city center. This is as close as you can get to the other side. Behind this barricade is a stretch of about 100 meters no man's land. Beyond that, you're into the rebel-held part of Aleppo. And if you had any doubts about who holds eastern Aleppo, let my cameraman dissipate those doubts. That is the black flag of Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda's brainchild in the Syrian civil war. There was one other black flag, that of ISIS. They aren't known to be in Aleppo, but their sympathizers abound. Those were the only two flags that we saw. This killing ground is all that separates the two sides, and in the middle there's a crossing.
There are many roads open on our side for civilians to cross, and some people do manage to escape, but rebel snipers shoot at them when they see them. They don't allow civilians to leave.
It's a scenario we hear time and again. 4 weeks ago, the Islamists put their side of Aleppo into lockdown, trapping innocent residents with almost relentless gunfire.
People who leave the areas under the controls of the terrorists has to do it not legally, because they cannot do it legally, and they are not free to leave. They want to keep them there.
The rebels used to let residents out of East Aleppo to visit their families or hospitals, but not anymore. Even if they do get out, safety is, well, a relative term. You see the huge screen behind me. Behind that is the rebel-held part of Aleppo, and the purpose of it is to prevent rebel snipers from shooting into urban areas, into western Aleppo, into civilian areas. If you look at the houses around us, they're all covered, all the windows, either layered with bricks or covered with sheets to prevent rebel snipers from shooting into people's homes. Don't take my word for it, take their word for it.
Getting around for us is very hard because we have to use alleys, side streets and holes in walls. It's very sad. We can't use the streets. We can't even send kids to school.
I'm always scared of shells. They destroyed our house there, but we hid in the basement.
There's a warren of tunnel-like streets in Aleppo, much like this one. Not exactly easy to navigate, but to a degree safe and better than the alternative. Look at this street. Do you see anything strange, like the kids and everybody sticking to the right? Nobody goes in the middle of the street because they know there's a rebel sniper on the other end. If this isn't the definition of living in terror, then I don't know what is.
No,
not just the army. He shoots at civilians too. He shoots at anyone who tries to get water from that well.
Hundreds of thousands of people in western Aleppo live like this, almost on the front line. One dotted with the black flags of jihad. Morad Gazdiev, RT in Aleppo.
Well, we shared our findings with the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders and Human Rights Watch, and we'll bring you their reaction later in the day.
The rebel-held part of Aleppo, the black flag of Jabhat al-Nusra.
Now, the US is, however, arguing that al-Nusra's presence in eastern Aleppo is insignificant, which contradicts the words of the UN envoy to Syria.
Russia cannot use the presence of what the United Nations estimates to be a couple of hundred members of al-Nusra to justify an indiscriminate aerial bombing campaign.
1,000 of you are deciding on the destiny of 275,000 civilians.
Washington has been promising to separate Western-backed rebels from the terrorists for months. That aspect was a crucial part of the failed ceasefire deal brokered by Russia and the US. However, no progress has been reached in that regard. We spoke exclusively to former Italian Foreign Minister Franco Frattini, who says that until al-Nusra leaves the city, there will be no safe haven in Aleppo.
No doubts, if we don't dismantle the basis that al-Nusra still is keeping in the city of east and the east of the city of Aleppo, will never possible to really, I would say, alleviate the sufferings that have been seen of the population in East Aleppo. It is possible, how? First of all, relying in what the Special Envoy of UN, Mr. de Mistura, is doing on the ground. They have all the means to indicate where humanitarian corridor is possible, where is not, to avoid feeding al-Nusra. That said, is necessary again to have a dialogue without preconditions. If you have a prejudicial position that all East Aleppo is in the hands of moderates, which is not true, they are terrorists. This is the reality.